Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it comes from a translation of a message that I received. The narration reads like this. Hello, Brother Nashi, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? My brother, my story, it goes on like this. I got married the second time. This relationship that I am in right now, this is my second marriage, and I am married to a man who is able to provide for all of my needs as well as all of my relatives. He can provide a better life for them. He is a wealthy man and he is a big businessman. He has several supermarkets. But as for these supermarkets, Brother Nash, what I did was that after I had used these charms on him, I made sure that whenever we open up these new supermarkets, we open up these supermarkets close to the village where my mom's relatives are. As for now, my uncles, my mother's relatives, they are the ones who are managing these supermarkets. I did all of these things so that if it ever happens that my husband will try to divorce me, then I will know that I will be able to inherit one or two supermarkets. Then I will be able to sustain the same, then I will be able to sustain myself and to maintain this life that he is giving me. Before I had met this man, I was just working in the supermarkets. This was a long time ago, before we had these smartphones. So this man, who later became my husband, he used to come at that supermarket during lunch and he would buy something from the supermarket and we will just talk until one day he told me that he wanted to take me out for lunch. I agreed, Brother Nashi, and we went and we discussed this issue at this other place that is called Arar Gardens, that is in the middle of Harare city. When we were there, that was when he told me that he was facing an issue back home. His wife was being stubborn. Sometimes she would refuse to make love to him. When he would try to touch her, she will shout on top of his voice. So he was always stressed about this issue. As for me, Brother Nashi, I then saw that all men are really the same, because when I dumped my husband, I thought that he was the one who was not understanding. My husband will come back late at night, and what I would have done is that if I would have prepared a good meal for him out of anger, I would take that meal and I will go and throw it in the dustbin. And when he will come back and when he will say, please cook for me, I will shout at him. And I was always stubborn because I didn't want him to make love to me when I was angry. I then spoke with God as I was sitting with that man at Arar Gardens. I said, God, if this is a second examination that you want to give me, now I am ready. I want to be as humble as I can because I want to get married to this man. But the problem was that this man, he was an already married man, but I was going to do whatever that I was going to do so that this man can marry me, since he was really wealthy. I then remembered that there was this other auntie of mine who was my mom's big sister. She is someone who really loves this traditional stuff. Just after me and this guy had slept together, and when this guy came to that room that I was staying at that time, I actually knelt down as he was sitting on the bed and I started removing his shoes. When I removed his shoes, his feet were really smelly, but I pretended as if they were not smelly at all. I actually kissed his feet because I wanted him to believe that I was a much better option than her husband. This is what we women do. When we start to date your husband, we will try to correct all of your mistakes. Where he had told me that his wife is a stubborn woman, I will become so much humble that he would actually feel sorry for me. After I had prepared water for him to bath, washed his feet, and when I was cooking for him, he then looked at me and he said, this is a woman that must. When he was looking at me, he said that indeed I can see that you are a wife material, and I knew that I had won the game. I rushed back to the village, and when I spoke with my auntie, she then called me into her kitchen. So in her kitchen there was this place where she usually goes and she will kneel down speaking to the ancestors. She gave me some powdered tobacco and she told me to call upon the spirits of my ancestors, as well as my mother's ancestors, as well as my late uncles, so that they can give me a blessing and to guide me. After we had done that, we then went to this other traditional healer. When we went to that traditional healer, we spoke and we spoke. This traditional healer said that he wanted 17 kettle. I said, where am I going to get this 17 kettle? Yes, this man is really wealthy, but 17 kettle, it is quite a stretch. My auntie reminded me of the goal, and she told me that at least per year, if I can provide 2 kettle, then I will be able to settle the bill. So for years and years, Brother Nashi, I kept on going back to the village and pay off 2 kettles each and every year until I had paid off the amount of those 17 kettles that had been required from me. Then that man told me that he was going to do the ritual. The ritual that he was going to do, he said that he was going to send a spear. This was a spiritual spear that was going to strike my husband's first wife so that she can die and I will be able to take over. Unfortunately, Brother Nash, when I had returned back to the city, this traditional healer, he took his spiritual spear and sent it so that it can strike down my husband's first wife. This woman, like my husband, she used to go to this Pentecostal church that is called AFM, as well as my husband, he still goes to that church. As for that woman, I think that she was saved by God, because my auntie back in the village, she called me and she said that this is an emergency. You need to return back home. I quickly returned back home. When I arrived back in the village, my auntie said, quickly, let me go and show you. We then went to that traditional healer's house and he was really sick. He said that he was glad that I was there when he was still alive, because he had something that he wanted to tell me. He said that when he had sent this spiritual spear so that it can go and kill off that woman that I wanted to steal her husband, unfortunately, she was covered by God's grace, so that spear turned around and it was coming to strike me. He sensed everything that was happening in the spirit. He quickly left his body and he came like a bodyguard. He stood in front of me. Then his own spear ended up hitting him and injuring him. He said that if I had let this spear to strike you, you were going to die. I said, so what are we supposed to do? Can't you just pull it out? She said, no, if I pull this spear out of my flesh, then it is going to demand a sacrifice. Do you have anyone in mind that you want to sacrifice? I said, what do you mean? He then said that amongst your daughter, do you have anyone that you want to sacrifice? And I said, no, I cannot sacrifice any of my daughters. That was when I was given an option. So this woman, the one that I was still in the process of stealing her husband, she had this other daughter of hers who is her last born. My brother, the thing that I did to this young woman, it pains me a lot, because this young girl, what we did at that time, you see, like a dog, like the female dog, when it is in heat, it is followed by a lot of male dogs. That is the spirit that we placed upon her. If you see her, Brother Nashi, you will feel so sorry for her, because she is always chasing after men like a dog in heat. Recently, we had to go and pay up a lot of money because she had stolen some money after she had been picked up by this man. She went to that man's house for a sleepover. Then she stole the money. I spoke with my husband as if I care, and I said, do not let our daughter to be arrested, because she might go to prison for life. This is quite a lot of money. We then took the money and we went and we paid, but this matter, it is still at the courts. We are still waiting for the judgment. These are some of the evil things that I have done, my brother, after I had sacrificed my husband's first wife's daughter. Then I went for the mother. As for the mother, I wanted her house, I wanted the properties. So she had this terrible headache. She just walked away, Brother Nashi, and I inherited everything, from the TVs, from the beds, to the carpets, the sofas, and everything. She just walked out of her own house that she built because this is what I wanted. I now have kids with her husband, my husband. Yo, dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our sisters as a WhatsApp voice note. Then we had to give you this translation. Strange things do happen.